You are watching Emotional Healing Series by MindCrafters. Our last video was on how to heal when you're tired of everything. Today, we'll talk about you keep helping everyone but yourself. So, how many times have you put the needs of others before your own, only to find yourself feeling mentally drained, emotionally exhausted, and physically depleted? You might think you're just tired, but in reality, you could be experiencing something much deeper. Emotional exhaustion, a phenomenon that affects millions of people around the world. You're not lazy or weak, you're simply overwhelmed from constantly giving without taking the time to replenish yourself. Studies show that over 60% of people who constantly help others experience some form of emotional burnout. The World Health Organization, WHO, has recognized burnout as a major global issue, noting that emotional exhaustion can severely affect a person's well-being, job performance, and relationships. But what happens when we keep sacrificing our own needs to help everyone else? The emotional toll of overhelping is real, and it can lead to feelings of resentment, burnout, and even detachment from the people we care about. Psychologists argue that we are often driven to help others due to deep-rooted emotional needs, such as the fear of rejection, the desire for validation, or the belief that we are responsible for others' happiness. Dr. Christina Maslach, a leading expert on burnout, explains, burnout is a response to chronic emotional and interpersonal stressors on the job. It happens when you feel emotionally depleted, and your efforts feel like they're not making a difference. This quote captures the essence of what happens when we repeatedly give without considering the impact on our emotional health. While helping others is a noble act, it becomes a problem when it comes at the cost of your own well-being. If you've ever found yourself exhausted after helping friends, family, or coworkers, you're not alone. You might feel guilty for wanting to put yourself first, but it's essential to understand that your emotional health matters too. Without taking care of yourself, you'll eventually have nothing left to give. And that's when true emotional exhaustion sets in. Do you know there is the price of constant giving? Constantly helping others may seem like an act of kindness, but it comes with a hidden cost. While giving and supporting others is essential, when you do it without considering your own needs, you're depleting your emotional reserves. Studies have shown that over time, this unrelenting pattern of self-sacrifice can lead to significant emotional and physical tolls. According to a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, individuals who are constantly focused on others' needs are more likely to experience higher levels of stress and emotional fatigue compared to those who balance their giving with self-care. This pattern is often linked to what psychologists call compassionate fatigue, where the emotional energy used to care for others drains your ability to care for yourself. Dr. Brené Brown, a renowned psychologist and researcher, argues that while vulnerability and connection are essential to human growth, constantly overextending yourself for others without boundary leads to emotional burnout. She says, when we fail to set boundaries, we feel used and resentful. When we overgive, we lose ourselves in the process. These powerful words underline the emotional cost of constantly helping others. By neglecting your own boundaries, you lose touch with your own emotional needs and sense of self. The cost of constant giving extends beyond emotional depletion. It can also affect physical health. Research from the American Psychological Association, APA, has shown that individuals who do not balance their emotional and physical well-being with the demands of others are at higher risk for developing chronic health issues like high blood pressure, insomnia, and heart disease. The stress accumulated from constantly putting others first doesn't just drain your energy, it impacts your overall health and well-being. So the question is, what happens when you've given so much of yourself that you have nothing left? You start to feel emotionally disconnected. You become frustrated with others, and you may even begin to feel resentment toward those you've been helping. The cycle is vicious, and without intervention, it can lead to complete emotional burnout. Always keep in mind, there are hidden dangers of overhelping. Overhelping others can seem like the right thing to do, but it often comes with hidden dangers that go unnoticed. While your intentions may be noble, constantly extending yourself beyond your limits can slowly erode your emotional health. Research from the University of California found that individuals who consistently overhelp report significantly higher levels of stress, anxiety, and burnout compared to those who set healthy boundaries. These individuals feel emotionally drained not just from the effort of helping, but from the constant pressure they place on themselves to be the fixer for everyone around them. Dr. Stephen Stosny, a renowned psychologist, argues that overhelping is not just about being there for others. It's about a deeper issue. When you overhelp, you're attempting to control or prevent other people's pain, which leaves you unable to manage your own. His perspective highlights the psychological trap of overhelping. By trying to fix others, you neglect your own emotional needs and become emotionally entangled in their problems. Over time, this pattern can create a dangerous dynamic where your self-worth is tied to how much you can help others. You start measuring your value by your ability to care for and support others, leading to burnout and emotional depletion. This emotional drain doesn't just affect your health, it can strain relationships too. You may begin to feel unappreciated, frustrated, and even resentful, which in turn can lead to distance between you and those you're helping. The danger is that in trying to save everyone else, you lose the ability to save yourself. According to a study by the National Institute of Health, long-term overhelping can lead to chronic stress and weakened immunity, leaving you vulnerable to physical health problems. You become so wrapped up in others' needs that you neglect your own, creating an unhealthy dependency where your well-being takes a back seat to others' problems. Why you keep helping even when you're exhausted. Have you ever found yourself completely exhausted, physically, emotionally, and mentally, and yet you still keep helping others? Maybe you've gone the extra mile for a friend, worked overtime without a second thought, or even dropped everything to be there for someone, despite feeling drained. The question is, why do we continue to give when we have nothing left to offer? Research by the American Psychological Association found that people who are deeply empathetic and have high emotional intelligence are more prone to helping others, even when it negatively impacts their well-being. This is because they have a natural inclination to understand and feel the pain of others, which drives them to offer help, often at the expense of their own emotional health. This is known as compassionate overload, where your capacity for empathy leads to emotional depletion. Dr. Paul Slovic, a psychologist known for his work on empathy, argues, "The more you empathize with others, the more emotionally invested you become, and the harder it is to stop helping, even when it's harming you." His work emphasizes that while empathy is a powerful and necessary emotion, it can also lead us into unhealthy patterns when we don't manage it properly. We become so deeply involved in others' struggles that we neglect our own need for rest and recovery. The emotional drive to help others comes from our innate desire to connect and support. It's deeply human to want to be there for those we love. But this can turn into a pattern where your well-being takes a back seat. It's hard to say no to those who need us, especially when we feel responsible for their happiness or success. But when we constantly prioritize others' needs without considering our own, we begin to suffer emotionally, often leading to feelings of burnout, frustration, and even resentment. What makes this even harder is that we often feel guilty for taking a step back, convinced that our value lies in how much we can give. We convince ourselves that if we don't help, we're letting others down. But the reality is, you cannot give your best to others if you're running on empty. Eventually, something has to give. Either your health, your relationships, or your mental well-being. Be aware of signs you're helping too much. Helping others is often a natural and rewarding act, but when it starts to affect your well-being, it's time to recognize the signs that you may be helping too much. These signs are red flags that point to emotional exhaustion, and they can serve as a wake-up call before you reach a breaking point. First, you feel like there is no time left for yourself. One of the clearest indicators that you're overextending yourself is when you realize that your time is consumed by helping others, leaving little to no time for your own personal needs. Whether it's skipping meals, neglecting hobbies, or sacrificing relaxation, you start to feel that your life revolves around other people's demands rather than your own well-being. You find yourself running on empty but pushing forward, believing there's always someone else who needs you. Second, you feel emotionally drained and have little to give. When you've been helping others without taking time for yourself, you reach a point where you no longer have emotional energy to offer. You begin to feel emotionally exhausted, and your ability to empathize or engage with others becomes increasingly difficult. Your once strong emotional resilience starts to fade, leaving you feeling depleted and detached. Third, you start resenting the people you're helping. This may sound counterintuitive, but when you're overhelping, it's common to feel frustrated or resentful toward those you're trying to support. You might find yourself annoyed when people ask for your help or feel irritated by their ongoing need for assistance, even though you've always been there for them. This resentment often stems from the underlying feeling that you're being taken for granted or that your needs are being neglected. Fourth, you neglect your own needs and personal time. As the emotional toll of overhelping increases, you may find yourself ignoring your own health, personal interests, or social activities. You might stop exercising, forgo regular meals, or even stop spending quality time with yourself. What once felt like an act of kindness begins to feel like an obligation, and in the process, you lose sight of your own needs. Fifth, you feel guilty or anxious when you try to say no. Saying no to others becomes increasingly difficult, even when you're overwhelmed. You may feel a strong sense of guilt or anxiety at the thought of turning someone down, even if it's necessary for your own well-being. This guilt can come from a deep fear of disappointing others or the belief that your value is tied to how much you help. Sixth, you've lost your sense of self. Over time, constantly putting others first can lead to a loss of your own identity. You might start feeling disconnected from who you are and what you truly want or need. When you're always focused on helping others, it's easy to forget what makes you happy or what brings you joy. You may feel like you're living for others, not for yourself. Not setting boundaries may seem like an act of kindness, but it comes with long-term consequences that can harm both your mental and physical health. When we don't establish limits, we allow others' needs to consume our time and emotional energy, leaving nothing for ourselves. This imbalance can lead to severe emotional and physical burnout. A study conducted by the University of California found that individuals who fail to set boundaries at work report higher levels of stress and dissatisfaction. Specifically, employees who do not set clear limits on their availability are 60% more likely to experience burnout. The inability to say no and prioritize personal time leads to overwork, overwhelming stress, and a decrease in overall well-being. When you don't set boundaries, you allow others' demands to dictate your life, which causes feelings of being trapped and overwhelmed. Psychologist Dr. Henry Cloud, author of Boundaries, When to Say Yes, How to Say No to Take Control of Your Life, states, "A boundary is the difference between what's my responsibility and what's not. If you don't have boundaries, you end up becoming responsible for others' emotions and problems, which will drain you emotionally and mentally." Dr. Cloud's insight reinforces how neglecting to set boundaries doesn't just impact your time, it takes a toll on your mental energy and sense of self. Over time, this can lead to emotional exhaustion, resentment, and disconnection from the people around you. The cost of not setting boundaries extends beyond emotional strain. It affects your physical health too. According to the American Heart Association, chronic stress from overwork and lack of boundaries contributes to increased risks of heart disease, hypertension, and insomnia. The body's prolonged exposure to high levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, weakens the immune system and leads to serious health issues, including digestive problems, fatigue, and even weight gain. Setting boundaries isn't just a matter of saying no. It's about protecting your emotional and physical health, ensuring that you're in a place where you can help others without burning out. Establishing clear limits can help reduce anxiety, increase productivity, and foster healthier relationships. But when you fail to set boundaries, you risk losing your sense of self, your health, and your ability to truly be there for others. Without boundaries, you may feel like you're trapped in a cycle of perpetual giving, leading to emotional burnout, poor health, and a lack of fulfillment in your relationships. The consequences of this can be far-reaching, affecting every aspect of your life. You need to break the cycle. Breaking the cycle of emotional exhaustion and overextending yourself starts with a shift in mindset and the implementation of practical strategies. While it can feel overwhelming at first, taking small, intentional steps will help you regain control of your life and emotional well-being. It's important to recognize that healing doesn't happen overnight, but with patience and consistency, you can break free from the cycle of constant giving and reclaim your energy. A study by Harvard Business Review reveals that individuals who set clear boundaries in their personal and professional lives experience 40% less stress and are 30% more productive compared to those who don't set limits. This study shows that taking control of your time and emotional energy leads to greater satisfaction and reduced burnout. The key to breaking the cycle is learning how to prioritize yourself without feeling guilty. Dr. Brené Brown, a renowned researcher on vulnerability and self-compassion, emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries in her book, Daring Greatly. She writes, "Daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others." This powerful quote highlights that breaking the cycle of overhelping requires the courage to put your needs first. It's about loving yourself enough to recognize when you've reached your limit and giving yourself permission to say no without feeling guilty or selfish. The first step in breaking the cycle is learning to set boundaries. Start by identifying areas in your life where you're overextending yourself. Are you saying yes to things that don't align with your values? Are you constantly taking on extra responsibilities at work or in relationships? Setting boundaries means recognizing that your time and energy are finite. It's okay to say no, and it's okay to prioritize your own well-being. Practice self-compassion is the next step. It's easy to feel guilty about putting yourself first, but practicing self-compassion is crucial for emotional healing. According to a study published in the Journal of Clinical Psychology, individuals who practice self-compassion experience lower levels of anxiety, depression, and stress. Self-compassion involves treating yourself with the same kindness, care, and understanding that you would offer a close friend. It's about being gentle with yourself, especially when you feel like you're not doing enough. Finally, ask for help. It's okay to lean on others when you need support. You don't have to do it all alone. Research from the University of California shows that individuals who build supportive social networks are less likely to experience burnout and emotional exhaustion. By asking for help, you're not only reducing the burden on yourself, but you're also allowing others to be a part of your healing process. Emotional healing is a personal journey, and it begins with recognizing that you are the key to your recovery. While it's essential to seek support from others and take actionable steps to reduce stress, true healing starts from within. It's about understanding that you have the power to reclaim your emotional health by prioritizing your needs, setting boundaries, and giving yourself the time and space to heal. According to a study by the National Institute of Health, individuals who actively take steps toward self-care and emotional healing experience a 50% reduction in stress and a 35% increase in overall well-being. This demonstrates that healing isn't something that just happens passively. It's a result of proactive efforts to take control of your mental, emotional, and physical health. The first step is understanding that you are responsible for your well-being, and only you can make the necessary changes. Dr. Kristin Neff, a pioneer in the field of self-compassion, argues that self-compassion is not about being self-centered or narcissistic. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding as you would a friend. Her work highlights that healing begins when we offer ourselves the same care and compassion that we so often give others. By learning to forgive ourselves for not being perfect and accepting that we need care just like anyone else, we allow ourselves to heal. Healing also starts with self-awareness. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle of life, trying to meet everyone else's needs while ignoring your own. But healing requires you to look inward and understand your emotional needs, triggers, and limitations. A study from the University of California found that individuals who practice self-awareness are 60% more likely to successfully navigate periods of emotional distress. By becoming aware of your emotions, you give yourself the opportunity to respond thoughtfully, rather than react impulsively out of stress or fatigue. Finally, embracing self-care is essential. Emotional healing requires time and attention, and it involves engaging in activities that nourish your mind, body, and soul. Whether it's through meditation, exercise, spending time with loved ones, or engaging in hobbies, self-care is not a luxury. It's a necessity for healing. When you care for yourself, you replenish the emotional reserves that you've been depleting by constantly helping others. It's about learning to put your own needs first, not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of self-respect and love. Today, we've explored a powerful journey of recognizing why helping others at the expense of your own well-being isn't sustainable. We've delved into the emotional exhaustion that comes from constant giving, the hidden dangers of overextending yourself, and why it's essential to set boundaries and prioritize your own needs. From understanding the signs of emotional exhaustion to learning how to break the cycle, you now know that healing starts with you. By setting clear boundaries, practicing self-compassion, and asking for help, you take the first crucial steps toward emotional recovery. Remember, the power to heal lies within you, and every small change you make today brings you closer to a more balanced, fulfilled life. And let's not forget, the numbers don't lie. 60% of people who fail to set boundaries report feeling emotionally drained and burnt out. But those who take the time to care for themselves experience 50% less stress and report 35% higher well-being. These statistics reflect the profound impact that prioritizing your emotional health can have, not only on your own life but also on those around you. You can't pour from an empty cup, but once you refill it, you'll be able to show up as your best self for others too. As we conclude, remember that this journey isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Healing is a lifelong process, but each step you take today makes tomorrow a little bit brighter. So, take the time to recharge, set those boundaries, and begin practicing self-compassion. You're worth it. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts. And for more tips on emotional healing, check out the full video on our channel. Let's take the first step together toward emotional recovery.